All the way back in the 15th century, the Black Death first appeared in Venice. Well, the Black Death is a very contagious disease in our period of history that killed millions and thousands of people in Europe and in Venice. Now, the ancient Venetians, or people in general back then, they did not know much about the spread of the viruses or how viruses spread to other people and what people could do to prevent the spread of the viruses. However, they did speculate that the disease had to come from somewhere, and they thought that the disease came into Venice from other parts of the world. Therefore, they thought that the disease came into Venice from merchants and sailors coming to Venice from other parts of the world. Now, as you may know, Venice was and still is a major port city. Ships from all over the world, from Asia, from the Mediterranean basin, or parts of Africa, they stopped at Venice to unload their goods and to sell their goods in Venice. However, what also came with those goods were the countless merchants and sailors that manned and sailed those ships. Now, the Venetians thought that those sailors and merchants were very good hosts or carriers of the Black Death, and to prevent those diseases from coming into Venice, they thought that they would have to stop those diseases from coming to Venice through stopping those merchants. To do this, they forced sailors and merchants to stay in their ships for more than 40 days. Now, in Italian, the word 40 is quaranta, hence the word quarantine that we have today. Therefore, the Venetians forced those people to stay on board their ships for more than 40 days before they were allowed to foot set in Venice. Now, if you think about the situation that we have now today in the COVID-19 pandemic, the essential principles of what the Venetians did and the public health measures that we have today are, in its essence, very similar. Although it's very different from locking up people in ships for 40 days without proper provisions, well, the public health measures that we have today are quite similar to what the Venetians did back in the 1500s to protect their wider population from the Black Death. Now, I have to say that both of these measures, such as quarantines, lockdowns, travel restrictions that are put in place by many government and entities around the world today to protect their wider population from COVID-19, is quite similar from that of the measures taken by the Venetians back in the 1500s. Now, although it may look very different, in its essence, they are very similar to protect their people from getting sick. Now, as you may have noticed, there is a clear contrast between, or a conflict between the idea of the health of the wider population with the rights of individuals. If you would think back to the Venetian example, the health of the wider population would be the people of Venice benefiting from, well, a lesser degree of infections of the Black Death. However, if you would think about the individual rights of all those sailors and merchants who are forced to stay in their ships for more than 40 days, wow, that is a serious infringement on the rights of individuals in today's standards. Now, undoubtedly, the world is a very different place from the 1500s until now today. However, the essence was that even back in the 1500s, where people did not know how diseases spread, there was a conflict between the two schools of thoughts. The two schools of thoughts of the protection of individuals and their rights, contrasted with the health and safety of the wider population. Now, I am a person throughout the 3 years of COVID-19 from December of 2019. I have been a person who lived in 3 different places or countries throughout the 3 years of COVID-19. I have lived in China, in Korea, Thailand, and back in China from the period of 2019 to 2022. And I have to say that as a person who traveled abroad during the COVID-19 pandemic, I have experienced countless public health measures throughout my journey, from public health measures such as quarantines to countless swab tests on my nose and my mouth. Now, I have to say that, to be honest, I did not enjoy any of those. I hated it, and I hated those quarantines that ate up my summer vacation. However, thinking back to it now, I kind of appreciate those health measures because, in the end, they did protect me from getting sick with COVID-19, and it did protect my family from getting sick as well. Now, as a person who traveled abroad during COVID-19 and experienced countless public health measures in the past, I have to say that I was able, in the end, to find a balance between these two contrasting schools of thought. And I have to say that, in the end, after living through all those public health measures that were excruciating for me when I was actually doing it, it was not that bad. So I see lots of people on the news and the internet taking it very hard to take those public health measures seriously. But in the end, I can safely say that I found the correct balance, or I was able to find the harmony between those health measures and my private life. Therefore, in the global pandemic that we have right now, I think it's very important for you and me to find the correct balance